Hello, we're students from school number 15 in Zlatovsk, Russia. We would like to tell you about our school museum and our great-grandparents who took part in the Great Patriotic War.
Our school museum is named after Georgy Konstantinovich Zhukov, the Marshal of the Soviet Union. Our museum was set up in 1982. Since then, a lot of exhibits have been found and brought here. We offer you to look at some of them.
Here you can see the portrait of Georgy Zhukov. Some people call him the Marshal of Victory.
This poster appeared at the very beginning of the war. It called all people of the Soviet Union to stand up for their motherland.
Here are some photos devoted to the first day of the war. The Brest fortress, it was located near the borderline, and at the first hours of the war, its defenders started protecting their motherland. The enemies were far away, moving towards Moscow. The defenders were in the encirclement without providing by food, water and ammunition, but they continued fighting for 31 days.
Several officers and soldiers from the Brest fortress were captured and sent to the different concentration camps. Prisoners who knew about the exploit shared their tiny portions with heroes.
Everyone in the world knows about the siege of Leningrad, which lasted 900 days. A lot of people died because there was not enough food in the city. Leningrad was in ruins, but not surrendered.
Here you can find information about key battles of the Great Patriotic War: the battle for Moscow, the battle for Stalingrad, the Orel-Kursk Bulge.
30,000 people from Zlatovsk went to the front. That's why you can find descendants of those who protected our country practically in every family.
I was 6 years old when my grandpa died, and the hot summer day is the only memory where I can still see him. My granddad has just done a swing and is watching us playing on it. I am enjoying the moment without thinking about the war. But nowadays, I understand that our peace can be broken at any moment. When the Great Patriotic War began, my grandfather was married and had 3 children. After calling up on the first days of the war, he had covered the long way to Berlin. Grandpa was wounded during the storm of Berlin and sent to hospital. However, he didn't like to remember battles and storms. He usually told his children about the breaks between fights, reading letters from home, singers who sang them different songs near the front line, and about his dreams of a peaceful life.
My great-grandfather went to the front in 1941. The same year he was injured and sent to the hospital. After recovering, he took an active part in the defending of Leningrad. He survived the terrible siege of Leningrad, which lasted 900 days. And when the Soviet troops went toward Berlin, he was sent to guard the borders with Finland. He returned home only in June 1946. In 1941, his wife stayed at home with 4 children. The youngest one was my grandmother. She was only 8 months. My great-grandmother worked on the collective farm day and night. That's why Granny's eldest sister had to do all the housework, look after children, feed cows and pigs, and work in the kitchen garden. She became a grown-up at 12. A lot of children were deprived of their childhood by the war.
In our family, my grandmother's uncle took part in the war. His name was Nikolai Mikhaevich Ruskih. He was taken to the front from Zlatovsk. He fought in the infantry and reached Berlin. During the time he had been captured and taken to concentration camps 3 times, but he ran away from them every time. He had a strange, mysterious but surprised ability. It was hypnotic power. Dogs, which were sent to chase for running prisoners, wimped and stepped back when he just looked into their eyes. It was a secret of his 3 escapes. Only after the war he was told that his brother had died the week before the end of the war. Many people tell contemporaries about the horrors of World War II. It's strange, but Nikolai always told about the war so funny that people listening to him laughed to tears. He told about the friends that he had found there, positive moments and joys of victories, but he had never told about fear, pain and blood. Why? Maybe these memories hurt him.
In 1941, my great-grandfather Shahislam Ahmadulin wanted to go to the front, but because of his age he was refused in calling up. However, in 1942 the situation changed, and he was allowed to serve in infantry. He went to Leningrad. Great-grandmother received the only letter where he wrote about the forcing of the river. His family had never heard of him anymore. My pregnant great-grandmother stayed alone with 4 children. The eldest one was my grandfather. When he was 9, he started working. He went to school from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. and then went to work. My grandfather was called up for military service in February 1943. He took part in the Budapest operation in the liberation of Vienna and Budapest. For his exploits he was awarded the Order of the Red Banner, the Order of the Red Star, the Order of the Great Patriotic War 3rd degree, and the Order of the Great Patriotic War 2nd degree. He also has medals for taking of Vienna and Budapest. This war touched everyone in the USSR. It was the most horrible war in history, and the war took many lives. My great-grandfather Andrew was born in 1900 and lived in Kuban. Before the war he was a baker. Then the war broke out. He was called up and served in infantry. In 1943 he was captured by fascists and sent to a concentration camp in Germany. You know, it was hard to survive there, but he pulled through. Though great-grandfather was more dead than alive. The village where my great-grandmother Agrippina lived with her 3 children was occupied. Fascists turned them out of their house and they had to live in a dugout. Sometimes my great-grandmother could see fascists shooting people passing the house. They did it for fun. It was a cruel war. I don't want such one to happen again.
Children, women and men who were in the rear worked at the factories doing machine guns and shells.
My great-grandmother Anna Antonovna Gavris was born in Kaunas, Lithuania. When she was 2, her family moved to St. Petersburg, and later they left for Belarus, where Granny's father was declared a spy and shot. The family was deported to Kazakhstan. In several years they were allowed to go to Zlatoust. They met the beginning of the Great Patriotic War here. My great-grandmother started working as a nurse in hospital. She worked day and night and hardly ever rested. Every day the workers at factories had been working for 12 hours on cold and rainy days. Most of them didn't have warm clothes and got only 400 grams of brown bread a day. Children were given 250 grams. Later, cuts which people could change into bread and sugar appeared. It was hard time, but people did their best to approach Victory Day. Here you can see shells and machine gun produced at our factories during the Great Patriotic War.
In 1984, the detachment was organized in our school. Every year, our students go to different parts of Russian Federation, where battles took place during the Great Patriotic War. As a result, 4,902 defenders of our motherland have been buried. 113 soldiers' medallions have been found. 330 names of missing soldiers have been restored. 47 people have been informed about the places of burying of their relatives.